Welcome to the Songwriters Across Texas podcast. This state has a lot to offer, and music is one of its greatest exports. On this podcast, we get to know songwriters through their stories and hear some of their music. Today, we're at Arlyn Studios, and my guest is Rosie Flores. I'm Karl Anderson, and this is the Songwriters Across Texas podcast. Rosie Flores is a true American gem. She was born in San Antonio, Texas in 1950 and lived there until she was 12. Her family all love music, and she and her brother can sing. And they got into learning out of the popular American songbook. It was glorious. There was all kinds of music all around. This is the 50s, garage bands, neighborhood weddings, playing with live bands, playing rock and roll. At 12, her family moved to San Diego. She started playing guitar in 1965. She was really into the Beatles for their voices, and she was into the Stones for their guitars. At 16, she formed her first band, an all-girls band, playing songs her brother wrote. She started writing songs early in her 20s. She started writing poetry. She put together an edgy country rock band called Rosie and the Screamers and started playing the popular San Diego nightclub circuits of the early 70s. Since then, her career has been so full and accomplished. She's traveled the world 4 continents. She's been part of so many cool bands, and she produced Wanda Jackson and Janis Martin. And all of her many great records are out there for you. Man, she played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Chuck Berry. This is a true American legend. I am so pleased to welcome to the show Rosie Flores.
Wow, thank you. That was a wonderful introduction.
I'm so glad you're here, Rosie.
Thank you, Karl.
What would you like to start us off with?
Well, you know, it's so wonderful to be in this environment, and your studio is in Arlyn Studios.
It sure is.
And I love this recording studio for many reasons. I've recorded here, I think, 3 or 4 times, but my favorite time was when I was working with Charlie Sexton, who was producing and co-producing my Simple Case of the Blues record. And I think that's the best record I've ever
I was going to say,
done.
I think that's probably your maybe most renowned record.
I think it is. It's the best sounding record, and I never forgot. I mean, every day I was here was a blessing. And so the vibe is here. Jacob Skiba was engineering and just great musicians and good songs. And I'd like to do one of the songs off the record. In fact, This is the title cut of the record. It's a song I wrote with my co-writing partner, Rachel Gladstone.
Rachel Gladstone.
You'll see her name on a lot of co-writes with me through the years on all of my records. We met way back when I was opening for David Bromberg. And so we met when I was doing kind of the opening act thing before I ever had a recording contract. But I had to get out there and sing.
You were out there,
So I was out there doing it. So now she's my favorite person to write songs with. So
great.
Here we go. Simple Case of the Blues.
Depressed, I'm really a mess, 'cause I can't get over you. It's no lie, I've tried to open my mind to the thought of someone new. Will I ever be the same? I still get weak at the sound of your name. I'm dazed, I'm crazed, a little amazed that I can't get over you. I'm confused 'cause you say you love me too, but I don't feel it in your kiss. You whisper words I wanna hear. The trouble is you're just not sincere. You keep disappointing me and making me cry. I wanna believe you and I ask myself why. I feel like I'm losing it, my height's gonna fuse. This is more than just a simple case of the blues. hoping that you'll change before it's too late. But you keep disappointing me and making me cry. I wanna believe you and I ask myself why. I feel like I'm losing it, my heart's blown a fuse. This is more than just a simple case of the blues. Yeah, yeah. Case of the blues. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, this is more than just a simple case of the blues.
Woo! Oh my! I could hardly.
Thank you for that.
Man, I was almost couldn't stay in my seat.
You got to move around. You got to dance.
You are such a killer.
Thank
a
you.
bad mother. I am such a fan of you. Thank you for coming. Can we?
Thank you, dear.
Can we talk about when you told me like your experience in starting in San Antonio and how the streets were and it's the 50s and you're and this all the music is that you have the sort of the popular American songbook. I like how you put that.
Yeah. I back in the 50s, and I was probably around 6 years old, maybe 7. Yeah, since it was, a safe time, it was kind of like you could walk to school when you were a kid.
Right.
And maybe my brother, who was 2 years older, would hold my hand, and
Right.
but they would let us, go play.
Right.
And we would walk around the neighborhood, and me and my brother, who ended up teaching me how to play guitar.
Yeah.
He was the first musician in the family. We would hear these bands, these rock and roll bands.
Like right out of their garage and
They'd
stuff?
just be practicing in their garage. They were
Right.
garage bands
Garage
from the
bands.
50s.
There was a lot,
And we'd
weren't
be
there?
going, wow, that's so cool. It's little kids, like a 7-year-old just going, dang,
Absolutely.
We were just blown away. Because we heard Elvis on the radio, we heard Jerry Lee, we heard Buddy Holly.
But it was fresh, right? I mean, that was new music.
Yeah, it was new rock and
Isn't
roll.
that
It
wild?
was like this energetic, rhythmic.
Yeah.
And the guys they were all really cute. And even as a little girl, I thought they were cute.
Sure.
I remember having a crush on this kid that had like a little rockabilly haircut when I was 7, I think he was 8 or 9. By the time we moved to California, when I was 11 going on 12, my brother had already picked up the guitar. And so I was already singing.
Right.
Because back in San Antonio, my father would, I don't know if I told you the story before, but he got a 2-track tape recorder, reel to reel, would put it on the kitchen table, and that's how we had. That was our entertainment.
You did tell me that, and
record.
I was blown away when you said, because I was like, man, that's the 50s still. People didn't have their own personal reel-to-reels, did they?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems unusual.
It kind of was. I didn't know any other family that
Right.
recorded for fun.
And I was like, gosh, I wish I could see that device,
I wish I had a picture of it. We didn't take any pictures of us doing that.
Right. But
Films.
Didn't you get something off one of the songs that you recorded?
Well, if you listen to the Rockabilly Filly record,
Yeah.
there at the very end of it, there's one of the recordings of me singing a standard, which was, I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter and make believe it came. But it was like, I'm gonna sit right down. It's like a little girl voice. And I go, oh yeah. It's like I already had like the little bluesy thing going. It was funny.
That is fun.
But we recorded a lot of songs, and there was a magazine at the time called The Hit Parade.
That's right.
And the Hit Parade magazine, there might have been a TV show to go along with it. I'm not sure.
I feel like there was, but
might
it
have
wasn't. I
been.
think it came a little later.
Yeah. And so we had the lyrics right there, so, you know, they had the little microphone on the kitchen table to clear the table where we're going to record for fun. And my brother would sing Hound Dog and Elvis songs, and I would sing more of the standards, which is kind of like, it's so funny, it's full circle. Because now I sing in the Blue Moon Jazz Quartet, and we have a
That's
whole,
right.
20 songs of the standards,
It's right back to the start, full circle.
It came full circle. But, and of course, I still play rockabilly and have recorded rockabilly. And
yeah.
So it's weird, when you think about it, when you're a kid, I think, it might be true for a lot of musicians, you form that first love of music, and it becomes why you start doing it, and it's always in your heart and soul, and you may grow and expand a little, like maybe like I went into country music for all those years because I discovered steel guitars and Tammy Wynette
absolutely
and Graham Parsons and Poco, like my little thing I'm wearing, my little Poco sign.
Poco.
All those country bands really spoke to me, even after I discovered the Beatles and the Stones. And all of a sudden, I was like, I love country music. I want to sing like Tammy Wynette and Patsy Cline. And, it was something I could relate to at the time. And in San Diego, where I was living, there were country bars that had those steel guitars and guitar players. And so, that was my environment for a while. It wasn't just surf bands.
Right.
It was country bands. So
you liked all the music. I mean, that's the part I love about you, because that's why you to me are like the symbol of American treasure. Like literally because
thank you.
because of the time period especially, and it was innate in you, and you grasped it, and you got the attitude from the start. The attitude counts a lot, Rosie. And your attitude is perfect for rock and roll.
I do like rock and roll, and it's so funny. I was looking at my refrigerator today, and I have this little black and white picture of my first all-girl band when we're 16.
Yeah, that was in San Diego, right?
Yeah. And we just look like young rock and rollers. I've got my teardrop guitar that was like Brian Jones, and my bass player is holding up her Hofner bass like Paul McCartney, and the drummer's holding her sticks.
Where did you get your hands on those instruments?
Well, at the local music store in San Diego had all those cool 60s, music. The guy that owned it, it was called Balboa Music. We lived on Balboa Boulevard. And there was a big park called Balboa Park, which was famous for the World's Fair. In fact, I flew over it yesterday and had a tear in my eye that I was flying over San Diego, and I couldn't even stop to hang out, because it was a stop.
When did they do the World's Fair there?
That was in the, I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it was maybe something like 1905 or the late 1800s.
Right.
And if you ever have a chance to go to San Diego, it's
I haven't
worth checking
been in a while.
because there's a lot of museums, and it's in the most beautiful park in San Diego. And then we're flying over it, and I'm thinking, man, when I was an art student in high school, I used to go there and go to the art museum, and I got a piece of my art in that museum, and there was like a old, vintage car museum there, and just all kinds of stuff that reminded me when I was growing up. And I got very nostalgic. And then I saw the surf, the coastline.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about my family. And I mean, I had a little tear in my eye because it was so, there was so much heart and soul that I grew up with here, and there's the first rock and roll club I played in, and and then Balboa Park, we had love-ins from the 60s,
Right.
It was like my whole life was flashing in front of me, man. It was wild, and I was like, I want to go back, I want to get in a time machine and go back,
Wow, that's beautiful, though. But some people, though, would fly over where they came from and not even want to look at it because you had this beautiful experience and you went for it and were encouraged the whole time. But you had the talent and just to know that I'm going to do this. It didn't seem like you ever had any doubt at all.
Not really. I never. I think I doubt myself more now than I ever have. as I've gotten older, and the music business has beaten me up several times. No, but I still, I can't believe it. Like, when I get on stage, I'm 18, and I still enjoy it as much as I ever did, you know. And here I am turning 72, and, you know, I don't tire of it, you know.
That's clear.
Yeah, I just like, okay, when's the next gig? You know, how do we get there?
You're coming off the road. I mean, yeah. I caught you, and you're like, oh, I'm in, New Mexico, I think you said? Was that where you were? Yeah, I was in
New Mexico yesterday morning. And our flight got canceled. But, you know, you make lemonade out of lemons, and we had the greatest time. And the only thing I am right now is underfed and sleep deprived.
Somebody get Rosie a sandwich.
It'll all be better by, you know, midnight. I'll have food and I'm ready to go to sleep. And
do you sleep well once you hit the sheets? Or?
Not really, you know.
I'm that way too.
If I'm worn out enough, I will. You know.
That's what happened. Except coming off of these, because we do them in 3-4 at a time, and we do them in several days in a row. It's the most economical way to do it. But it's like. Yeah. You know, you get sort of tired and a little like your brain starts crossing up who's who, and I got to handle all this information. It's, you know, in the end, it's fine. But
I feel you.
Last night, I was like, I've got to still write Rosie's intro. But we just done this long day and 3 days in a row, and I really was having a hard time focusing. And it took me like an hour, and I finally just like. Stop focusing on it. You know, watch
just have a drink of whiskey.
I got some wine.
I
got some wine, and I put the ball game on, and I was watching it, and I was like, okay, this is good. And then my team started doing bad, and I was like, the hell with this. And I got right in there, and I wrote your thing.
Did you? You wrote it so well, too. It's like so passionate.
Oh, I meant every word of it, I promise.
You know, you're gifted, you know, and you're creative, and you're a musician, and...
I sing, but I'm an actor really first and foremost, and a writer. I've written several screenplays and a novel. Not anything that I did that I never published the novel, but I wrote a novel. I wrote one, and I don't know that it needs to be published. I'm glad I did it, and I like it a lot. But I wrote it when I was young, and I'm not sure what's in there, if it's worthwhile or not. It doesn't matter.
It felt good to do it. You know, my dad was a writer. He wrote, 4 different novels, and he worked on screenplays, and he just made him feel so good to be there at the typewriter and doing it. And he was so proud of it. I
started on a typewriter, too.
Even his daughter and his family could even read it.
Exactly.
So I guess a lot of it is what it's about more than... if it's going to make it in the world.
Well, I started off doing plays, out of college, and I moved to New York, and I started writing plays, and it was really cool. Nice. And I met Casey Crowley, right before, and so she and I got married, and we moved here, and she did great. Casey and I split up a while ago, but we had a crazy good run. But that was how I was approaching as a young man, writing plays in New York City, cutting my teeth there.
Wow.
I'd grab flyers from cats, how they hand you flyers wherever you're walking, and I'd take them and I'd use them as paper to write stuff on. Because I was just in this everything seems like a poem, or something.
God, when we're young, we're so much more poetic too.
Yeah.
I feel.
Absolutely.
Like when you're young, you have so much you have to get out of you, and so much you have to say. And I long for that, and I try to pull that up out of myself even now.
That's good.
And I've just been recently getting back to painting.
Oh, great.
And drawing.
That's fun, isn't it?
Pull that creativity out of me.
What kind of?
Because I think it's all. Well, I'm working in charcoal for drawing.
Great.
And I work in acrylic because it doesn't smell bad and it's easy to clean.
Yeah.
And I can keep that stuff wet.
Yeah.
There's solution. There's water. I did oils when I was younger.
I had a hard time with the oils.
Yeah.
I couldn't get them to do what I wanted.
Yeah. And I might just for fun one day. Maybe next year I'll get some oils, just mess around. But I think that it's all connected. Writing, reading, even.
I agree.
Watching movies,
Absolutely.
Writing songs, playing guitar. I picked up the piano in 2020.
Really?
And I'm learning that now. I can play Imagine by John Lennon.
Nice.
Where I never could before.
Right.
I want to learn Spanish. I want to record in Spanish. When you get your creativity going, you're unstoppable.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Isn't it like that when you're like a creative person?
And it feeds itself. And when you're in the role, then it's like I can't even fall asleep now. It's so good. But I like it when it's like that, because because I've had spells where I just was waiting around.
Sleep is probably,
But when you're waiting for inspiration for months.
Yeah.
There's a great Nick Cave song called "There She Goes, My Beautiful World," and it's about that. It's about waiting. He's talking about all these people that are that did things creatively from weird places, and then the sort of the chorus is like, "Send me that stuff so I can do it too." And it's just a gorgeous song.
I want to hear that. I love Nick Cave. I saw him at the Moody Theater and.
I would have thought you guys would have could have played together.
We almost did once. Mm-hmm. He canceled on a show I was going to do in San Francisco. When I used to be a young, budding startup, guitar. I would go out on stage with an acoustic guitar. I had an Alvarez Yari, and I would rock the joint with one guitar in front of people like Taj Mahal, Elvin Bishop, David Lindley, El Rayo X.
Wow.
Sleep at the Wheel, the Blasters, just whoever was popular at the time.
Those were the big boys at the time.
And they liked me because I had energy.
Yes.
And so I would get out there and just do that,
Yeah, it's fun.
And San Francisco was my main little audience. Jerry Garcia, I'd open for him.
No way.
The Jerry Garcia Band.
That is wonderful.
Not Grateful Dead, but the band. And Rodney Crowell, Roseanne Cash, Emmylou.
Oh, my goodness.
I got to play in concert as a nobody for all these amazing bands back in the 80s.
My mouth, I'd be like, Karl, shut your mouth and look good on camera.
But it was so fun, who else got to do that?
I don't know. Hardly anyone.
You
sure did.
And I didn't get a record deal till like maybe 8 years later.
Wow.
I did it for 8 years,
But everyone was like, yeah, come on. Taj Mahal.
Yeah, Jerry Lee.
Jerry Garcia.
Jerry Lee Lewis. I have a marquee with, in Los Angeles, Jerry Lee Lewis, Rosie Flores. And I was a nobody. But my name was in lights, man.
Badass.
I was a punk rocker. I was in the Screaming Sirens.
That's right.
And everybody from the punk scene came to see me open for Jerry Lee. And I was like, it's just what I did.
That's so hardcore. That makes me want to hear another song right away. Can we do it?
Oh, dang.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Can I get you in that mode?
Let's see. I was thinking I might do this song. It's kind of cute, and it's, I think... I started thinking, in 2020, I was feeling so lonesome. I was like, am I ever going to find anybody for me at this late age? And probably not, because I'm at home and I'm not going out. I'm never going to meet anybody. I thought, here I am looking for somebody. Is that weird? And then I started thinking, maybe somebody's out there is looking for me. So I came up with a song idea called Who's Looking for Me?
I like it.
So I ended up recording it with my current band, Rosie Flores and the Talisman, we're called. Ooh. And it's out on Pearl Records, and we recorded it.
Pearl Records.
And so I'll try to play a little bit of this for you. I'm a little skinny-legged hillbilly, get-picking, finger-licking girl. That's me, looking for a fine-looking, sweet-talking, hot-rodding, two-stepping man. Who's looking for me in this big old world? Well, there must be someone to love a little old me. If dreams come true, then I ought to start dreaming till I find me a bee-popping, hugging, loving man. Looking for a skinny-legged hillbilly, get-picking, finger-licking girl like me.
little skinny-legged hillbilly, get-picking, finger-licking girl like me, looking for a fine-looking, sweet-talking, hot-rodding, two-stepping man who's looking for me. And what is a San Antonio rose without a garden? I need the Texas sun to make the petals bloom. What is a twirl without a partner on a green hall dance floor? Or a swaying waltz that'll keep me in his arms forevermore? Who's looking for a skinny-legged hillbilly, get-picking, finger-licking girl like me, looking for a fine-looking, sweet-talking, hot-rodding, two-stepping man looking for me? Yeah.
I had to. I was jumping around so much, my headphones kept falling off.
That's a nice little Cajun beat.
That is a hooky, catchy little ditty right there. Hey, can we talk? Can we talk a little bit about your songwriting approach? Like, I mean,
Okay.
those lyrics and that.
I don't, sometimes I'll do music first. I was always kind of making fun of myself, and I would call myself a skinny-legged hillbilly singer. And I would go, what do I know? I'm just a skinny-legged hillbilly singer, and I would always call myself that. And so I kind of got the idea, when I was like, who's looking for me? Who might be looking for a skinny-legged hillbilly?
Right.
Get-picking, finger-licking girl like me. That came later. And so it was kind of a fun little ditty to write. And,
Really fun.
So, I'll start with the chorus. It seems like I start with choruses a lot. And then I'll move into like a pretty cool verse. And then I'll come back to that later, And so sometimes it takes a while for me to come back to stuff,
Sure, I know. I remember when I was married to Casey, she would listen. She would be working on songs, and then some of them would take 2 or 3 years to she figured out, one little bit of it. I was really fascinated with that.
It's wild. I don't know if that works with writers like you are with writing ideas, but I have, I've just recently gone through a bunch of archives with all my files and all my boxes through the years because I moved. Like, what's all this stuff? I got to throw away half this stuff,
Right.
And I just put all these notes in one big plastic acid-free box, and I've got so many fragments there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is a gold mine.
Right.
There's a lot of songs that were never recorded that are really good that I want to, make that part of my next record.
What a find. What a find.
Yeah, it's been really, you're not going to believe what I found.
What?
Holy shit.
What?
I found a song that I started writing with John Prine.
You're right. I'm not going to believe. No, what?
I didn't even hardly believe it.
That's crazy.
That I actually found the lyrics. And I always remembered a few lines from it, And I even played a little bit of it for James McMurtry, who wanted to finish helping me write it.
Oh, right, of course.
But then I was looking through all these things, and I found, like a bunch of verses from that session,
Tell me about that session real quick.
John and I made friends at I lived in Hollywood, North Hollywood, and Studio City, really close to this club called the Palomino Club. And that was where, like, everybody that was into, like, country and roots and blues and rockabilly.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
That was our hangout. You know? And so it was early on, before I was even ever into rockabilly, before I ever heard of the Blasters or anything rockabilly. And I would go, and a lot of people would go and do the talent contest. And I think it was on Thursday night, and you would sign up, and you would get up there, and you'd play. Well, one night, John Prine was there with his manager, and I had already met his manager because I was always out there like, here, want to hear my cassette tape? I'm a songwriter, you know.
Right.
And I met one of Al Bonetta's office guys, and he had heard me sing, and so I had already met Al Bonetta, who was John Prine's manager. And so he saw me and met me, and he came over and he said, I want to introduce you to John Prine. And I said, John Prine?
Yeah.
Really? And so, like, I met him, and he was the nicest guy. And I sat there with them and had a drink with them. And John was like, hey, do you feel like you want to come over and write a song? I'm staying in room 235 at this hotel. And I'm like, really? You feel I could write a song with you? I was just blown away. And he said, sure, come on over, Wow. So I got the address and I showed up. I said, I'm going to go home and get my acoustic. And we started writing this song. And the one line that kept cracking us up was, I got you painted. I could even just do that much for you. I got you painted on the inside of my eyelids. It's true, I can't sleep without looking at you. Just that little bit right there. I
feel like I just got given something like incredible. Just to have heard you play that for me right now, that directly.
Thank you. And, I just couldn't believe, that I got to do that. And we got most of it written. I had it on cassette, which I later gave to John, and we never got to finish it. And the last time I was playing with Los Tex Maniacs, and we were in Canada. I was a guest with Los Tex Maniacs, and the other two guests was Alejandro Escovedo and Augie Myers. So they brought the three of us to join their really cool set, and so John was on the bill, and we talked, and I was hanging out with him and his wife, and he goes, we got to finish that song, He said, when you're in Nashville next, call me up. Well, I never did get a chance to. Then it was the pandemic, and then we lost him. And so, to be able to find that
gold,
that notebook, with all those verses and all those lyrics so that's going to probably be on my next record.
Oh my goodness! You heard it here first.
I need to finish that. You heard it here.
I think it'd be cool to hear about how you went from being this girl who was great at getting gigs and handing cassettes around, but you need a record deal at some point.
I really wanted one. I really wanted to make a record, and there was so many great musicians in Los Angeles and L.A., and I had played with a lot of great ones. Like the guy that was my bass player was the guy that's been in Bonnie Raitt's band for 30 years, and Greg Leese, who's plays steel and guitar with Jackson Brown, and was with Katie Lang, and he's, T-Bone Burnett's main guy, and so I was around really good musicians, you know. But I wanted to make a record so bad, and I felt like I needed to prove myself as not only a songwriter but as a singer. I mean, it wasn't enough to just be cute in those days, It's like you had to be good, and so I worked at it, and every morning I would have coffee and a cigarette and my legal pad, and I would get up and I would, just aim and aim and aim and aim for trying to write a good song. And I took voice lessons. I took guitar lessons.
That was the fun part, though, wasn't it? Striving for that. But something that would have a quality. That's what I'm hearing you say, because I say that a lot. I'm like, I think the things I make, they need to have a quality to them.
Yeah.
They can be silly. They can be exciting. It could be anything, but it has to have a quality.
I had so many, amazing songwriters that were around me and singers, and I just felt like I got to rise up,
Right.
And in L.A., you could just see everybody, You know, I saw early Rodney Crowell.
Right.
You know, when he was a kid, and I'm like, oh, I'll never be that good. You know, but I'm going to be influenced by him, you know, and touring with Elvin Bishop and hearing that blues guitar. I'll never be that good, but I can strive for it, you know. And, you know, I had all these influences, and I was good enough to be in the game, you know, but I hadn't gotten that record deal yet. And so yeah, when I finally did get one and have the opportunity to do that, Capitol, you know, Records, Studio B.
Nice.
You know, it was like, okay, let's lay it out. Let's put it out there, girl.
Who did you have play with you on the record?
I had Greg Leese. I had Billy Bremner from Rockpile, the guitar player from Rockpile.
Yeah, right on.
I had Donald Lindley on the drums, who, you know, wasn't famous yet, but he ended up being on all of Lucinda Williams's records, Buddy Miller records, Jim Lauderdale records. He ended up playing with Joe Ely here in Austin. He just hadn't made his name yet.
Right.
Neither one of us
Just
had.
like you. Yeah, exactly.
And in fact, Greg Leese hadn't really made a name for himself yet.
Right.
You know, but we had a band called the Bad Boys, and Dwayne Jarvis ended up joining that band, and who am I leaving out? Well, you know, the guy that played piano in Dwight Yoakam's band, Skip Edwards on piano, and there was David Hidalgo from Los Lobos playing on that record.
Wow.
And Dusty Wakeman, who engineered, and Pete Anderson, who was producing me, and he was Dwight's producer. And
Gotcha.
But I said, you can't play guitar on my record because that's Dwight's sound.
Right.
So I'm going to play guitar, and so is Billy Bremner, and so is Greg Leese, you know. And so if it's okay, I'd rather you not play. And he's like, oh, no. He goes, that's great.
Good.
You know, you need to have your sound, you know.
Yes.
So that,
Because
you know, as a young
good for
kid,
you for knowing that too. Like, look, there's a signature sound. People are going to hear that that's Dwight Yoakam's guy, and I'm not trying to be that.
Yeah, I didn't want to be the female Dwight Yoakam,
Right.
even though everybody was calling me that because I was from L.A. And I think the only thing we had in common was that we both loved Buck Owens and the Bakersfield sound, and we loved early country music and Graham Parsons, and we loved all that together. We were friends, you know.
Right.
And we both had skinny legs.
That's the thing. Well, and he's as sort of engaging on stage in a similar way as you, I would say. He moves around a lot. He charges an audience up. He knows how to command that stage.
Yes, he does.
He's got great songs.
And a great voice.
Yeah, and he can act his tail off, too, by the way.
Yeah,
every movie I've ever seen him in, he's ridiculously good.
Yeah, he studied drama when he was a kid.
Right, that makes sense.
He studied.
Makes total sense.
That's why he's so good. He studied.
it paid off.
I didn't study that. I studied jazz, dance, and tap and ballet. That's where I went. And then at one point, when I was living in San Diego, it was 1977, and my teachers sat me down, and he used to come see me sing. Mm-hmm. And he sat me down at breakfast once, and he said, you know, you're a pretty good dancer, Rosie. And I went, really? I'm like, well, gosh, thank you. And he said, but you're an even better singer and guitar player. I'm like, oh, I see what you're getting at. It's like you're getting at something here, huh? And he was like, if I were you, you know, I'm like, what are you going to do as a dancer? Be in Las Vegas in a chorus line?
Right.
And he goes, and you're kind of tiny and you're kind of small and you've got this big voice. And he goes, I would be putting my money into voice lessons and guitar lessons and just make that happen, you know. He goes, I think that's where you're going to excel.
It. That's great that he said that.
And so great that Rainer said that to me.
It is, because there's always someone along the way that says the thing you need to hear.
He was truthful with me.
Right. And he wasn't trying to be mean. He was like, look, girl, you go out there and do your thing that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. This is where you're going to go.
Right.
You know? And it was hard for me at first to listen to because I love dancing.
Right.
Because I started dancing when I was 6, you know. Oh. And so it kind of shook me a little bit. At the same time, I went to bed that night and I thought, that is so clear, you know. And I told him the next time I saw him, I said, I'm going to quit dancing tomorrow, and I'm going to start taking voice lessons, and I'm really going to put all my eggs in that basket.
I'm glad he said that to you. And you can dance whenever you want, but we need you on that stage. We needed you on that stage.
I've been trying to moonwalk lately, and I've been doing all kinds of fun dance steps.
You can do the Chuck Berry thing, right?
I can do. In fact, Rolling Stone wrote about me on that review.
Really?
Yeah, they wrote about me doing the duck walk on stage.
Oh, okay, we might as well just say this right now. I mean, so when Chuck was getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? Or was he already in,
no,
and they were just doing this song?
He had already been inducted. This was a Chuck Berry tribute.
Okay.
And they had invited myself along with, there was the only other woman was Melina Moy, and it was Dave Alvin, John Bonamassa, Merle Haggard. Wow. God, I'm not even remembering everybody.
It's cool, but well, how could you? Because you're up there next to Chuck Berry, and this is the part I love the best. I'm going to let you tell it because you had your moment with him.
I had a moment with him, and I have a photograph because my manager at the time was following me around with her camera. And I went up to Chuck, and I'm not even sure if I remember the chord right this minute.
No particular place, right?
Yeah, it was something like that. There was something up in the morning and out to school. You know, I mean, I'm like, is that the right chord, Mr. Berry? And he looked at me and he went, like he smiled, and I got a picture of him doing that. And I went, thank you very much. And I walked on stage and hit the chord.
That's all I needed.
And it was really cool. And then I got my picture taken with him later, with him and his wife. And it was him and his wife and me, and I think there was another person. And we're walking out after the concert, and everybody's just smiling. And because, that was the first lead I learned.
That JB
so I
good,
got to learn
Johnny
that
B.
from that guy. A lot of times I've stopped and had to pinch myself and go, "You've done a lot. You're not rich and famous like you wish you were, but you've done a lot."
You really have. We're gonna. I'd like to talk about the Janis Martin thing because that meant a lot to you, and that was. But please tell us.
Well, when I was coming up, playing in L.A., at that point when I started discovering how much I loved playing and singing rockabilly, because I'd kind of moved from, this is before I got signed as a country artist. Okay, so this is in like '79. Okay, and I ran into this young group, this young, sexy, greasy rock and roll band from England. They were sort of they discovered blues and rockabilly before we did in America, really.
Yes, that's true.
And so they were out there all dressed up to the nines in their teddy boy outfits and their greasy hair and their tattoos. I mean, I never seen tattoos like that. There were hardly
tattoos around.
They were like the first guys that had pompadours and tattoos. So anyway, I ran into them and I followed them around, and I was at a show in San Francisco. And I ran into a girl in the audience, and we were talking, and I said, yeah, I'm a rockabilly singer. I have a band called Rosie and the Reverbs. And she said, well, do you do any Janis Martin? And I said, who's Janis Martin? And she goes, well, if you don't know who Janis Martin is, you don't know anything about rockabilly. And then she walked away, and I'm like,
leaving you feel like this small.
Well, it made me feel like I didn't know anything about rockabilly.
Right, right.
So I went home, and I went to this vintage record store, and I found her record and put it on the record player, and I started learning all most of her songs.
You needed to know.
I needed to know, and because her voice was like, when Janis was young and she recorded that stuff, she was only 17 years old.
Oh, I didn't.
She was like a teenage star.
Wow.
And I was, I've always had this little girl voice. So even though I was like, I would have been like maybe 24 at the time, or no, I was 28. That I still really had that sparkling little sparkle voice. I've gotten like way more, kind of more bluesy and dusty as I've gotten older. But I could sing all of her songs in the keys she recorded them.
Oh, cool.
So that was really fun. So I ended up getting to know her. I found out she was alive, And I called her up. I called it. You remember in the days when you could call information for a number?
Yes.
Like, can I have the Danville Country Club?
Yeah.
And I got him. Like, is Janis Martin there? I'm like, oh, you mean Janis Witt? You know, 'cause she had gotten married.
Gotcha.
And I got her on the phone, and she goes, "Oh, people call me here once in a while and ask for Janis Martin." And so that's how I got to know her. And then I ended up meeting her. Fast forward. She invited me on stage to sing Drugstore Rock and Roll with her, along with a woman named Candy Kane and another woman named Leslie Bird Anderson, with 2 other rockabilly singers from California.
Yeah.
And I had to cancel a show just to go and see her play live, and they let me.
Nice.
I said, "You have to let me cancel." And then I got her to sing on my Rockabilly Filly record in '95.
You were the Rockabilly Filly.
And I got called that from back in the Palomino days from the bass player of the band of the Palomino Riders, because I was always up there singing rockabilly songs. And so I ended up calling the album that because it was a title I could relate to.
It's a great title.
And thanks. They still call me that. I can't even lose. I've tried to lose
nickname.
it, and I can't lose it.
I like it.
I can't lose it. I've tried, believe me. And so fast forward 10 years after I put her on the Rockabilly Filly record, along with Wanda Jackson, who I ended up touring the record with.
Right.
For 6 weeks.
Good.
But I said to Janis, I said, "Please let me produce a record on you," because she hadn't recorded since back in those days. And
right.
I said, "I could get you a hit record with all the musicians I know, all the great rockabilly players, you know." She goes, "Well, I don't really like rockabilly anymore." She goes, "I like the blues." And I said, "Well, we'll record the blues. We'll record whatever you want to do, you know."
Yeah.
And so when that record finally came out, she had already passed on.
No, but she got to make it.
She got to make it.
So she went out with her boots on.
Make it.
And you got to help her go out with her boots on.
That is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
That is gorgeous.
It was a good thing. And I co-produced it with a wonderful friend of mine named Bobby Trimble, who's one of the drummers in the scene, who has played with everyone from Big Sandy to the Belfuries to the Ugly Beats. I mean, he's amazing. You know, so we worked on this project together, and so that's my Janis Martin story.
What a just super fulfilling story, career, but it's the whole thing. We got to end this, and I'm gonna hopefully you'll play us one more song. But I'm just really happy that you could come in and
thanks.
You know, you're coming off the road. It means a lot to us that you came in here.
Well, rock, pop, jumped up, rock and roll, drugstores rocking, rock, couples are bobbing, bop, bop, jukebox jumping, jump, beat, keep it thumping, thump, drugstores, real gone man, rock, pop, jumped up, rock and roll, drugstore on the corner, man. That's where you find all the bebop gang, the girls with the jukebox to grab your man, jitterbug hand in hand. The guys have crew cuts under their hats. Girls laugh at us with real cool caps. Always together, hat in hat, dancing to a rock and roll step. Drugstore's rocking, rock, couples are bobbing, bop, a jukebox jumping, jump, beat, keep it thumping, thump, drugstore's a jump, a jump, a jump. Woo! Rock stars rocking. Jump, jump. Down the couples on a boppity bop. A jukebox, a jumpity jump, a jump, jump. You know the beat will keep a thump, a thump, thump. Drugstore's real gone. But if it do you do you do.
Thank you.
This is a standing ovation for Rosie Flores, the great one. Thank you so much for being here, Rosie.
Thank
Rosie,
you.
do you have I'm guessing you're just rosieflores.com?
Yep, rosieflores.com.
Visit her at rosieflores.com. And please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. That's good for everybody. And if you've been listening to this podcast and you'd like to watch it, go over to the YouTube channel, Songwriters Across Texas. Thanks again, Rosie.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.